Time connecting. Welcome to day 95 of our Supersize Your Business Annual Challenge. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. That's our topic for today. Our topic is how we deliver our message. You can have all the words right and be saying the exact perfect words, but if your tone of voice, if the volume of your message, if the intent behind your message isn't what you want it to be, your message is not going to be received very well or properly or in the way that you intend from the person that you're delivering that message to. Learned this through lots and lots of experience in both corporate America and in businesses of my own, as well as being a human being, raising a family, being a grandma, all those things. Our tone carries with it the emotion and the intention behind the message that we're delivering. So I challenge you today to pick a sentence and say it with different intent and different emotions. Why? So that you can see how different the meaning becomes when we just switch up one thing. If we just switch our tone, if we raise our voice, if we're under a highly emotional state, that will come through in our communication, no matter how perfect the words might be or how much we selected or had Chat GPT or AI or somebody tell us the words to say. They're not going to come out right if our intent and our emotions aren't in the right framing, in the right frame of, if we're not in the right frame of mind when we're having a conversation. This happens a lot when we're having difficult conversations, when we're having conversations about boundaries, when we're having conversations about expectations, when we're having feedback conversations, when we're giving somebody feedback on a project or a process or their annual review. I did lots and lots of annual reviews, literally thousands of them, maybe even 10,000 or more. I did a lot of reviews in my corporate life and a lot of audits and things where you had to deliver the message to somebody that wasn't necessarily good because something was not in alignment with how it should be for their department from a sanitation, quality, legal standpoint, financial standpoint, etc. People don't want to hear those things. Although I always embrace them. I used to love when I got audits, which is crazy, but I learned to embrace them as information to help me do better feedback personally, but also for the business, right? Sometimes we just need an outside set of eyes looking at things and then telling us, okay, well, this is what I see. It doesn't have to be delivered in a judgmental or superior way. If, one of the fastest ways to alienate people is to speak to them with sarcasm, in condescending way, dismissive, irritated, or frustrated. One of the things I've really had to work on personally is I defined frustration in a really silly way that made it super easy for me to feel frustrated. And how do you think I communicate when I'm frustrated versus when I'm just sharing some information or I'm teaching something? Very different. I also have discovered as a grandma, and I'm sure I did this with my kids, but when I'm upset or irritated or they're doing something irritating, which let's be honest, sometimes kids do things that irritate us adults, my voice raises. So my tone gets more and more frantic, not really frantic, but more and more emergency laden. Stop, you know what I mean? And it doesn't, my message is always meant to be delivered with love, but it doesn't always come out that way when I'm raising my voice and the volume of my voice. So today, I challenge you to look at one piece of written communication. For businesses, I think it's easier during communication for us to look at written communications because we're focusing on the business and the tools that we use in our business more than personally doing it ourselves. I would love if you want to join the Supersize You Challenge too, because that's all about you as an individual and a human being becoming a better version of yourself. And this challenge is about making your business better. And one of the fastest, easiest ways you can make your business better is by being a better example, right? So you may have noticed that if you use certain phrases or certain terminology or certain tones of voice or have certain expectations, a lot of the people that report to you do too. They don't always copy our good features and our good practices and habits. They tend to copy the things that they can relate to, which are often the negative things. And that's not really the legacy we want to create or the example we want to set and how we want to lead in our business. So pick one written form of communication, read it, and then, ask yourself, what is the tone of this message? What you can usually pretty easily say, okay, this is the intent of the message, but what was the tone of it? Have you ever sent a text message or an email that really was toneless and didn't have a tone attached to it, which people couldn't relate to and therefore were confused or they didn't understand the message? I'm sure I've definitely been guilty of that before. So we want to make sure whenever we choose to communicate, it's hard sometimes to take that pause, especially in a more inflamed situation or a more of an emergency situation. But that's exactly when we need to do that. We need to take a deep breath and ask ourselves, while we're taking that deep breath, what's my intent? What tone do I want to have? If it's an emergency, I always do this and I take a deep breath, sometimes more than one, and I respond with warmth, calm, directions, etc., to handle the emergency in the best possible way and not let the fact that I'm probably freaking out inside just like everybody else is show through in my communication. That is when you know that you're able to manage your tone and how you're perceived by other people intentionally. We always want to be intentional, right? Are there going to be times when we slip and we just emotionally react? Yes, of course. But let's try to take those out of the equation, especially in our businesses, because if we do that, guess what happens? Everybody else in our organization will start to behave that way. And that might not be a behavior that we want replicated in our culture. So that's all I've got today. Share in the comments below. One, if you ever had a text message or just talk about this, your tone. Has your tone ever negatively impacted or been misconstrued as meaning something that you totally didn't mean? Definitely seen that happen. Definitely had that happen to me. I think as technology's gotten better, people are using voice notes and things now. I think that they are superior than just texting because they do include your tone, which includes your emotion and the intent behind your message. It depends on the message, but often that would be a better way to go, or better to deliver certain types of information in person, right? If you're giving somebody feedback, don't just call them up on the phone and do it, because they can't see your face. They can't see your body language. They can't really clearly delineate your intent unless your intent is, of course, negative or malicious. That's pretty easy to pick up even through the phone. All right, I'm just wandering now. If I can help you in any way, hit me up and ask. Otherwise, practice today. Practice being intentional and paying attention to your tone, your volume, what emotions you're throwing into your messages, and the impact that they're having on other people. Because everything we do impacts other people, right? All right, mostly us. Have an awesome day, and I'll, of course, see you tomorrow. Bye.